Hey, I'm Wing Assassin, and right now I'm at my little Civil War history site called Historic Blenheim. And what that is that well, it's important because in that attic of that house right there, Union soldiers were kept here. This is basically a hospital camp, and what would they do is that they basically treat the soldiers here. Some soldiers graffiti in the attic up there, and it was still kept to this day. There's an interpretive center and a visitor center right here where you can see that. And right now, we're having an event right now called Christmas at Camp. Basically, what that is that during the American Civil War, basically, well, no one really cares about how the soldiers and civilians celebrate the holidays during this war. And right now, I'm going to be interviewing both Confederate and Union reenactors who will give their best information and what they know about what really happened during the holidays throughout the war. So, hope you guys enjoy. Go. So, can you please give us your name?
John.
Hi, John. So you can see that you're a Confederate soldier. So what's your rank in the Confederate Army?
I'm just a private right now, currently.
And what company are you in?
I'm with the my comrades are with the 17th Virginia Company D, the Fairfax Rifles.
Mm-hmm. And of course, I live in this area. So basically, if I was still living in this area during the Civil War, I'd probably join them, or probably just go over the border and join another regiment at the time. But yeah. So right now, can you tell them what's going on right now? What's the event going on right now?
This is the Christmas in Camp at Blenheim and at Historic Blenheim in Fairfax. Right now we're just here to give a good event of showing the things that the soldiers did during the holiday season, and yeah.
All right. And because of that, since people only care about Civil War of the ideology and the battles, the commanders, they don't really care about what you guys do during the holidays. So can you give them what was the average experience for a Confederate soldier that would spend his time in the holidays during the war?
Well, pretty much the simple answer for it was that they were far from home. They were not. A soldier could be scores of miles away from home, perhaps hundreds of miles from home, and because in the Eastern Theater you had people coming from as far as Texas, joining the Southern units, and all across the South in the Eastern Theater. So they were hundreds of miles from home, and many of them were homesick during this time. They wanted to be with their family and friends. Yeah.
Would you say that there were like some kind of sort of desertions that would happen mostly on both sides because they feel so homesick, they just want to go back home and be with their family?
Yeah, definitely. There throughout the whole war there was desertion all the time, especially as the war dragged on in its later years. Especially in 1864 when Sherman was going through Georgia, burning buildings and stuff like that. A lot of the soldiers were getting letters from home saying that they need help and that they're under Union occupation. So a lot of them, just a lot of the Confederate soldiers would desert to go back home to their families.
Mm-hmm. We say that. Do you think that desertion probably went up a lot during the holidays because they feel so homesick, they just want to get out and just go back home? Do you think that happened?
Yeah, a lot of times when there wasn't much fighting going on, and there's definitely a lot of boredom. Also, people were dying of disease, and I'm sure a lot of them felt very homesick during this time to go home.
Right. Well, and because of that, do you have any other anything else you want to tell about being Confederate during the holidays in this war? Or like, I heard online that there were some Christmas truces during the war.
Mm-hmm.
Can you recall anything that could back this up or anything?
Oh yeah. I mean, there were plenty of truces that happened during the war where you'd have, because when armies were camped, they would have pickets, which are people that would basically be standing guard. And what would happen is a lot of them would interact with the Union soldiers who were in their camps. Sometimes they'd be across the river from each other. And there's one instance right before the Battle of Fredericksburg, they would make little boats and put a piece of cloth on them for a sail and send them across the river. So there's lots of instances of soldiers having truces and meeting with each other from both sides.
Right. But it's also true that some of these truces actually happen during holidays, right?
Well, yes, around that time, yeah.
And were there any famous truces like that? Like, for example, during World War I, the famous Christmas truce in the Western Theater, was anything like that ever happened during the Civil War? Like anything?
Not where they shut down an entire front. What a lot of times would happen is during the winter time and into late fall and early spring, there wouldn't be as much fighting, simply because the roads were very muddy during that time and iced over, so it'd be hard to move the wagons and horses and have the soldiers march in that. So a lot of times there wasn't fighting, so there's pretty much already kind of a automatic truce that there wouldn't be as much fighting. There were campaigns and battles that happened in the winter time, but it just wasn't as common as it would in the spring or summer.
Only one way.
That explains it. All right. Well, thank you very much.
Oh, of course.
Thank you.
Yep.
And happy holidays.
Oh, yes.
Kind of chilly out here.
All right. So after going over the Confederate camp, I'm over here on the Union side, and you mind telling us your name?
Yeah, my name is Jeff Joyce. I represent a private in Company A of the 7th Maryland Volunteer Infantry. So it's a Union unit, and I reenact with that unit. It represents an actual unit known as 7th Maryland that fought during the Civil War.
All right. And I talked to John over on the Confederate side about what it was like being a rebel over during the holidays. Mm-hmm. I talked to him about it, saying that ultimately people talk about the Civil War, they only care about the battle, the ideology, and the commander.
Mm-hmm.
They don't really care about what it was like during the holidays for the soldiers, and since we're doing Christmas at camp. Mm-hmm. How about you tell us what it's like being a soldier during the holidays?
Well, as you say, we think of the Civil War in terms of the battles, but a Civil War soldier, as do soldiers today, spend most of their time in camp, waiting, if you will. And during the winter months, there was typically no fighting, and so the soldiers would go into kind of semi-permanent winter camps where they'd stay for 4 to 5 months at a time, 3 to 4 months. And so during the holidays, they were away from home. Sometimes the first time they'd ever been away from home, away from their families. So just like soldiers today, the service members that are overseas during the holidays, it can be very, very sad, very stressful. Soldiers would try to, if they could, get furloughs to go home to visit their loved ones, but that was very rare. They looked forward to getting care packages. Folks at home would mail them boxes full of goodies, cakes, pies, cookies, writing materials, things of that sort. It might take weeks or months for the box to arrive, but that was something to look forward to. And just like they would try to celebrate Christmas with a large meal, with carols, singing, games, things of that sort, and just not too different from today. Some of the things that we think of Christmas in terms of the traditions, like Christmas trees were becoming popular at that time. So soldiers would actually take a small, decorate a small Christmas tree. Sometimes they'd hang hardtack or things of that sort versus ornaments for the Christmas tree. They decorate their tents with greens and wreaths and things of that sort. So it's just they tried to celebrate Christmas as best they could, but it was hard being away from their family, sometimes for the first time, with not knowing what the future would hold for them, knowing that they might be going into battle in just a few months.
Well, I also talk about talk to the private thing. Asking this question, I want to ask you again. So you heard, everyone heard about the famous Christmas truce during World War I.
Yes.
And I asked him if he had any knowledge. Was there anything like that in a Christmas truce or holiday truce in the Civil War? He doesn't know, but I was wondering if there's any famous ones that you probably know.
There were opportunities for truces. Primarily between pickets. So typically when an army was in camp, they would deploy soldiers away from the camp just as a kind of an early warning. So for example, during the winters of 1862-63, when along the Rappahannock River, the Confederate soldiers were on the southern side of the river, the Union soldiers were on the north side, and the pickets would actually be shouting to each other across the river, and they might declare kind of an informal truce where they would exchange newspapers. The Union soldiers might bring coffee beans, things of that sort, exchange for tobacco that the Confederate soldiers would have. So if they didn't actually meet face to face, they might sail little boats across the river, if you will. So there were informal truces that occurred between the pickets. They were discouraged by the officers, of course. There was no large-scale truces that I'm aware of that occurred, but individually the pickets would do that, certainly around the holidays when both sides were far from home. They would sometimes have bands that would play on either side, and sometimes the most popular and last song that they would play would be Home Sweet Home. So things of that sort. They play, Battle Hymn of the Republic on the north side. They play Dixie on the south side, and then the last, they almost like a battle of the bands, regimental bands back and forth across the river. And the last music might be something like Home Sweet Home that they could all identify with.
That's very nice.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is it for the interview. Is there anything else you can share with us about like any holiday stuff or any experience for a Union soldier during the Civil War?
Well, the big holidays, of course, were Christmas, 4th of July, Independence Day, and there was no holidays like Memorial Day. There was Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving was becoming more common in the November time frame. So there would be Thanksgiving meals, and also St. Patrick's Day. Go to March, and if there were units that were primarily of Irish descent, Irish immigrants or Irish descent, they would often celebrate St. Patrick's Day in March with races and games and things of that sort. Sometimes drunken races and drunken games if they had access to alcohol. So those were kind of the popular holidays: Christmas, New Year's, St. Patrick's Day, 4th of July, and Thanksgiving.
All right. Well, I think that's it for the interview. Thank you so much for
You're
this
welcome.
time.
Nice to talk to you.
Nice talking to you
So
too.
I hope this helps, and nice to talk to you. So we're very good.
Yeah, right now, I think the last thing to do is to talk to the commanders on both sides.
I think so.
And see what the experience was like during the holidays for them, for the commanders.
Very good.
All right.
All right. Well,
Thank you so much.
you're welcome.
So this is the last interview as a group interview. So I already did one with John here as I did previously, and these are the other reenactors. And how about we go one by one, starting with you and all the way around, and tell us your name and what is your role during this time period.
My name is Corporal Matthew Decker with the 143rd New York Volunteer Infantry. out of
Damn,
Sullivan
man.
County, New York. You must forgive his manners. He's Southern. He has none. What was your question about Christmas?
Yeah, mostly how's like being soldier at your rank during the holidays. But first, let's go around and introduce everyone with who they are, and afterwards I'll give my questions so that you guys can answer what it's like during the holidays for each one of you guys.
Very well.
Hi, I'm Lieutenant Colonel Gaylord Tyler, second in command of the 17th Virginia Regiment, which was organized around here.
I'm Miss Mary Tyler. I'm just here with my husband today.
And you, sir?
I'm Albert Wilcox, and I'm the owner of this farm and of that house that the bastard Yankees desecrated. Sir.
No, sir, he's a corporal. Not sir.
Desecrated? Ambiance, sir.
Ambiance.
People will come to your house and look at what we've done and go, wow, look at all that.
Wall art.
Yeah, right. I just finished that house and finished plastering it and everything else just a couple weeks before when Yankees came in and took over the house. Wrote all on the walls.
Well, how about we settle this tension and bring some familiarity. Mostly, well, what is like celebrating the holidays throughout the war for each one of you guys? How about you?
Holidays are hard. In the Army, there's very little comfort. The Army doesn't really do anything special for you. It's not like they're giving out turkey dinners or nothing. So we hope for the best. We're with our comrades. We pray to the good Lord and sing some carols and celebrate in that way. And if we have a dear friend, we may exchange a small gift or a token with them. And we miss home, most of all. Our wives, our sweethearts, our families.
How about you? What was like celebrating the holidays as a Confederate commander?
Well, I think the corporal summed it up pretty well. It's just tough being away from home and family and farm. Luckily for us, we live over there in Broad Run, so it's not a big trip for us. At the moment, I'm home on leave. The unit is down closer to Richmond, so we need to go back in a day or two. I'm not looking forward to leaving.
And what about you? What was it like for you two being civilians during the holidays during the war?
Well, it's very hard because all of our loved ones are gone. They're not here, so you really don't even feel like celebrating because everything is just been ruined. Your land has been ruined. You can't really afford gifts, and it's just it's more of a sad time instead of a holiday during the war.
What about you, sir? What was like?
Well, I agree, it's a terrible time. People come in and mess up your house and everything else. You can't even be at home to celebrate the holidays in your own home. It's a horrible time.
Well,
And yeah, for the private soldier, it pretty much the group summed it up well. But it is definitely a time of being away from home for many of the soldiers who were serving on both sides, and usually during this time, the armies are in their winter camps. There's usually not much fighting going on during this time, so there's a lot of it's kind of like it can be a little dull at times, but a lot of it is just daily drill, and yeah.
Anyone expecting like something cheerful. Well, I'm sorry about that, but
Yeah.
It's how about we go another question to lighten the mood? What would you guys do to make your time the holidays during the war feel better? Give you a little bit of spirit. Was there any like holiday?
We had a raid. We had a raid. That brought me great cheer. It was a raid on Burke Station, December 28th, 1862. Stewart. Jeb Stewart came up from Camp No Camp in Fredericksburg with 1,800 men under the leadership of Wade Hampton and Fitzhugh Lee, and what's the other Lee? There's another Lee. And
Custis.
And they came up and they raided Burke Station, and while they were there, they took a telegraph machine. It's an unusual telegraph machine. It was a machine in which you could take and type in a letter, and it would transcribe it to the telegraph type of things. And they decided to have fun with the Union leadership, and they started breaking into the different messages and putting in false information. That's where you get the word eavesdrop.
I see.
And so they President Lincoln said the thing about it, you can
Another cup of libation.
You can replace.
Fathom the bowl.
You can get.
I can make a general anytime.
Make a general anytime,
I can't make a horse.
but you can't make a mule.
So, I actually looked up the source and story of this, and it turns out that from what I read, the telegraph message that they sent to the Union Army was that they didn't tell them that you can make a general out of anything, but you can't make it out of mule or horse. Apparently, the original one, what it says was, they told you in general to please purchase better mules, since the ones they have are very bad. Basically saying that hey, next time when we catch your stuff, make sure you bring the better quality of it.
So then they left off of Burke Station and went over to Fairfax Station, but they found it surrounded by so many men and everything else that they couldn't make any kind of headway there. So they went on up to Providence. Got up to Providence, and the Union Army was hunkered down and had a line there. And even though they came in from East Main Street, coming up that hill, they were fired upon and everything else, and they decided there wasn't any much good going to come of that. So they scavenged back down and cut up into the woods north and went on up and came out just south of Vienna. There's a street up there, Hampton Road Drive, that's about the place that they came out on. And they came out on there, headed on up, and went up to the school up there. What's that school up there? Oh, jeez. There's a school and a farm up there. And they stayed overnight there, and then they eventually circled on around, and then came back down several days later, down to their Camp No Camp. While they were on their travels, that's when John Mosby thought he might be able to do some good. And he asked Stewart if he might have permission to take a few men and go start scouting around and everything else. And that's where Stuart Mosby got his start as the Mosby Raiders.
So did they celebrate Christmas?
I don't guess so. They celebrated it by raid.
Yeah. Always good to have Yankee provisions with a successful raid. Always better than our own.
Particularly champagne.
Yes.
Champagne and other fair goodies.
Well, you asked what raises spirits during the Christmas time. I'm afraid to go back to the men because they will find whiskey from somewhere, and that's how they blow off steam and fight boredom. Because don't forget, we didn't fight all the time. We fought maybe 10 days in an entire year. The rest is all camp life, worrying about food, and marching.
Yeah.
They
That's the reason.
say if you took all the time that we were in the war and you squished it down there and took out all the extra time of marching and doing all those kind of things like that, the actual time that we were in battle was only 2 weeks.
He keeps saying we.
Yeah, I noticed.
This farmer did not serve. Sir, just point out.
Well, Miss Taylor, what would you do to lift your spirits during the holidays when your husband is
You
gone?
wouldn't drink whiskey.
No, we didn't drink whiskey, but women, we would get together with our children and Randy.
Claret.
But we would get together and we would cook together and we would try and make things nice for the children, make little homemade ornaments and just try to make things special for them.
And what about you? Being commander for the Union, was it the same thing as spirits to lift your spirits up during the holidays, knowing that you're far from home, from your families and such?
Well, of course, we would find things to do. Drinking is always prevalent, because you can have a good time drinking. Cards, dice, anything to keep our minds busy and give us a little bit of excitement. We would also have our band play beautiful, beautiful music. And sometimes the Rebs band would come out and we'd have a battle of the bands back and forth and see which band could outdo the other.
That's where that term came from. Battle of the Band. The favorite game for the 17th Virginia was marbles. Believe it or not.
I heard that game. Always wondered how you played that.
We just have to talk to one of the right soldiers and he'll explain. You got a, what's the big one called?
What is it called?
Shooter.
Shooter.
Yeah.
Shooter.
Yeah, the shooter, yeah.
And the little guys are the peons and they just get blown out. So it's good to be the shooter.
Right.
Well, for my, I think my last question, or second to last question, is so everyone, whoever knows history knows about the famous Christmas truce during World War I in 1914. The famous Christmas truce. Oh wait.
1914.
Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot. I'm a time traveler here. I'm sorry, I forgot about that. Ignore that. Anyway, so
We're fighting in 1914?
we joined like very late. But anyway, Europe, once again, Europe's at war again. You know how they are.
They are.
And
Always.
Never stop fighting in Europe.
apparently this war was be the greatest war of all. And they said it was going to end all wars. Well, unfortunately, it did not. But everyone was all the soldiers were in high hopes, high spirit. It was holiday times, and for a second, after like months of fighting, they actually came together on Christmas Day and got together. And it was actually very peaceful, and some wished it would just end there, but of course it didn't, and things got bloody. And because of that, I'm wondering, was there anything like that during the American Civil War throughout the 4 years? Was there any holiday truce or Christmas truces, and where soldiers would from both sides would come together and do something like that, or civilians would do
Typically, some
something
of the pickets are the guys you have way out next to the battle line to warn you when the other side is making moves. And the pickets sometimes were the same people. They got to know each other. In Fredericksburg, they famously traded tobacco. We had the tobacco, they had the coffee. And they made little rafts to get across the Rappahannock River and pulled them back and forth and traded that way. As was mentioned, we were in winter camp for the winters because the roads were so bad. And trying to, other than Jackson's Valley campaign, very few soldiers marched long distances in the snow and ice and hail and sleet. You lose too many men to disease. So, and the roads became impassable very quickly because they're dirt. So, mainly people hunker down in their hooches, and we don't have an example. We used to have over there an example of a winter hut. That's the house, but
Taking it down.
yeah, they've taken it down. But it would sleep 4 to 6 men, maybe 8. And the big task there is what are we eating next, and how do we stay warm?
Alright. So, and for civilians, for you too, was there anything similar like that where you guys would be familiar with, the enemy pickets, and was there any like familiarity or
Better
ease
not
of
be.
tension?
Between you and any enemy picket.
No.
No, never. No.
We'd shoot them.
Yeah, they were destroying our farms and taking everything. We weren't ready to be friendly and exchange.
Not even the holiday spirit can you change that, huh?
No, when
No, not on the farm. No.
they burned your barn down, sold all your animals and your winter food,
You want some cider?
you're not very happy about that.
You want cider?
Oh yeah, that'd be very lovely. Let me get my own cup.
Before somebody ate
Rubber
it.
chicken.
We were just talking about starving to death.
You go ahead, bring it up. Thank you.
Sorry about that, Jim.
You want some more?
Sorry about the Jim.
That'd be enough for me.
That's all right. Actually, I have a cousin that's Jim Joyce. So, but no, I figured that's fine.
Oh, you missed the big interview.
Oh, well, it's still going on. Yeah, it's still going.
Oh, good.
No, I was chatting with the young man up there. Yes, you were interviewing me up there. Union perspective.
That's right.
Yes.
Share. This little buzzard over here. And the Union guy.
He's a galvanized Yankee.
That's right, I'm galvanized, hard as nails.
I guess there's only one thing to ease the tension, and that's, I guess, apple cider.
Yes.
We were talking about his last question. It was kind of humorous. He said, was there fraternizing at Christmas time between the homeowners around here, whose husbands were down in Richmond trying to fight the Yankees, and the Yankees stationed here. And I think my wife had the wonderful response, which was, no.
That's right.
Hell
Suspect
no.
not.
They burned our barn, stole our livestock.
Yeah, that's right. The last thing we'd do is want to fraternize with those damn Yankee rebels or damn Yankee
Well,
barbarians.
then I believe intro is over. But before we end here, for all you guys here, is there anything else you want to share about what it's like being for the holidays, and just your daily lives during the holidays? Anything else you want to share?
Well, I just hope this damn war is over soon, because it's been life's been like hell during the war. Can't raise a family, can't raise a crop.
Livestock stolen.
Liberate.
Well, I'm
Freed your
I'm
livestock
thankful-
from bondage.
I'm thankful that my husband is home now and we're able to spend some time together.
I go back in 2 days.
Okay. Glad you're able to be here.
Yeah, he gets shot 4 days from now.
I hope not.
No, the hardest part was just being away from your family. And for a lot of these young soldiers, the first time they'd ever been away from their families or away from home.
Yeah, not getting sick. I forgot to mention that. That's also a big goal.
Yeah. And when I talked into John, he said that some boys from the Southern in the Confederate Army, some of them came from like Texas. I bet none of them ain't even seen snow.
Nope, correct.
Well,
Cheers.
Yep.
here's the
Oh, I've
holidays.
got my rubber chicken there. I was going to put back.
Eventually,
on. So we don't forget. I'll be right back. I don't want to walk away with it.
No,
eventual peace.
eventual peace and no reconstruction.
All the reconstruction. What? How is it going to pay for the damage here? How are we going to pay for the damage and rebuild this whole farm for them?
And they won't give me a dime.
Even if he liberates it, you don't think that your Southern government is going to pay for the whole thing?
Nope.
Well, when the war was over, the Union, well, were you a secessionist? Well, you're not getting anything for what happened because it was your fault. But if you're a Union farmer, yeah, we'll give you about 15 cents on the dollar for your livestock.
Unless you're over in Loudoun County, in the Loudoun Valley, which Sheridan came over and burned all those barns, the Yankee Union barns, and they didn't pay a cent.
Oh, they didn't?
No, they didn't give those farmers a plug nickel for any of those properties they burned and
My mistake.
livestock. That was terrible. They were doing that because they thought they could burn out the food source for
Confederate Army.
well, for Mosby. And Mosby just stood on the edge of the valley and just laughed at him. Didn't affect him a bit.
Sure affected the farmers, though.
Yeah, and there's farmers over there today that still remember that.
They call it the burning.
Well, at least now we all know what it's like having holidays with all of you guys, and
Not good.
mostly for you.
This kind of comes down to the fact that just because it's Christmas doesn't mean it's not a war. And war is ugly.
Of course. But hey, at least you can enjoy some hot apple cider.
Here, here.
Anyway, thank you all for your time, and I'm sure we all enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you all.
Casualties have been heavy.
Where's your weapon? It's a Christmas truce. We did not bring them over.
And right now, wasn't just always the soldiers or civilians out there. We also have
between thickets
down there
along the
some more people to talk to on how the holiday was for them in those kinds of areas. Let's go see. So I'm assigned to the visitor center here at Historic Blenheim, and we have another civilian who will tell us more about her life. You don't mind? Can you tell us your name and what you do?
All right, my name is Susan Kelly. I'm a former retired school teacher. I represent the Yankee School Farm. These were women that were hired by abolitionist groups to come south. I'm here today at Blenheim with not as the school marm in the school, but I'm here to show my representation of the period toys and discuss about Christmas during the Civil War.
All right. And I already talked with Ms. Taylor, who is a wife of a Confederate officer out there. And since you're a Yankee civilian, when she already told us about what the holiday life for her, and I want to know what was the holiday life for you and for me?
Okay, well, first of all, I will talk about civilian women, what it was like during the war. I have to understand that Dad was probably out in the field at war, so it would be Christmas at home with the children and the mother. And the children would be very grateful that they mostly got fruit or an orange in their Christmas stocking. They would sit around the fireside and they would tell Christmas stories, and they would have prayers, and they would have their Christmas dinner. The children mostly did a lot of work. They had to take over for Dad not being home because the war was going on.
Let's see. And because of that, you say you're a retired schoolmaster.
Yes.
How about you tell us what is it that you teach, and what is it that you do during the holidays to lighten the spirit, or what you do since it's the holidays?
You're talking about in the 1800s?
Yeah, about 1800s.
Okay, what would I be doing as a school mom during the 1800s?
Yeah.
Okay, well, first of all, the Yankee school moms were women that were not married. They came south, as I said, they were hired by churches and religious groups that come south. Now, when they came south, they found out that things were a lot different than what they anticipated them to be, because they were northern in the south, so there wasn't a lot of animosity feeling in them. So these women, if they were in South, they would probably find a family and they would spend Christmas with the family. A lot of times these women, they were not in schoolhouses. They would go from town to town with their satchel and teach the lessons from the Bible from their satchel. As far as Christmas, some of them may return to go up north to go back home, but if they were staying in the South, they would get together with another school marm, perhaps, and they would get together with each other, or they would spend some time with some families that they met.
I see. And I said before, she had some trinkets for us, or some things for us to show. How about bring it over here, and so that you can tell us what each one of them is.
All right. Well, let's start with the actual period toys.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I'll stand over here.
Of course.
All right. I want to explain. This is an actual period toy drum from the 1860s. And what we have here, this is a game called Jackstraws. It's a forerunner of the game Pickup Sticks. Now, the first game of Jackstraws, you'd have to pick up these little individual pieces without moving the other piece. And then they came out with a modern version of Jackstraws, which was magnetic. Now, this is so interesting. This was made in 1920. It is now 2022, and the magnet still works.
Amazing.
I think that's very amazing also. As far as the period toys, we also had table croquet. We played this at a table. This was something that was more for the parents. This is a model of a magic lantern. This was very exciting because they could actually show color on the wall. So we have these slides, and how this worked is you had a kerosene lamp, and it would reflect off of this, and then it would show the color on the wall.
Yeah, you can probably see that this almost looks like an old camera, or old video camera.
Right. I'd like to share some of the hands-on replica toys I have here.
Of course, let's go over here.
This has been the most popular. This is called the Wimadiddle.
Look at that.
Now, can you tell me how it's moving? What is causing this to move?
It must be the rattle from when you move it back and forth.
Go ahead, keep telling me.
Mostly because of the momentum of the rattle, it shakes the little propeller here, making it spin.
Its vibration is moving up.
The vibration.
Right. Now, we were trying to figure out how to make this go in the opposite direction. But that seems to be quite a challenge.
One of the main mysteries, huh?
What else do we have here that I can share? Well, we have, of course, Jacob's Ladder. This was named after a man that would build a ladder going to heaven.
Yeah, mostly I seen this before when I was a kid, and I'm always wondering how you do that, or what's so special about it. But knowing that it's more than over 160 years old is amazing.
Now these here are not; they're just replicas of the reproductions. Okay, let's see what. Oh, the tops. Those tops were very popular during the Civil War time.
Yeah.
We have. This is Dancing Jack. I want you to imagine that you're sitting on your back porch and your grandfather's playing the fiddle. So you're going to have Jack dance to the tune of the fiddle playing.
I see.
Interesting about the toys is they didn't really do anything exciting like games of today with the video games. They were entertaining.
They're entertaining in their own way, and that's basically what you should always
Exactly.
have.
That's exactly what they were doing, entertaining in their own way.
Well, I believe that'll be it from the interview. This is actually amazing that some of these toys, and these toys some kids at the time would ask Santa to give them, right?
Sure, bye.
So yeah, that was very nice to learn about that. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
And I hope you learn about more about what it's like being a civilian during the American Civil War during the holidays.
Okay, thank you.
So this is going to be, I believe, my last interview. And as you see right here you see the Victorian Society of Falls Church. Falls Church was actually part of Fairfax until broken up in I think during or after the American Civil War, and is now part of what is now Arlington County. And over here,
I think Falls Church City. There's a city. I think it's part of Arlington County. But anyway.
By the map. Anyway, this is going to be our last interview. If you don't mind, may I ask what your name is and what's your role during this time period?
Okay, so my name is Sue, and I'm a member of the Victorian Society of Falls Church since '99, and it just depends on what we're doing. I can do different roles. But right now, I'm showing part of my collection of antique, primarily toys for girls from the 1800s. Some of these are the late 1800s, but it's during the period of the 1800s.
So can you tell us what it's like during the holidays during the American Civil War from Falls Church? What is it like for you?
Well, it was difficult because the war was going on, and I lived in a very nice house, which is now Cherry Hill Farmhouse. And the times were difficult because it was hard to get certain supplies, but we were also a little bit more well off than other families, so things were a little bit easier for us. But it was very difficult. When the soldiers came through, a lot of times they took the cattle, and so we had a farm, and we had cherry trees and an orchard. So lots of times they took the fruit, and there wasn't anything you could do about it. And and other people who had chickens and cows and horses, quite often the soldiers would take those because they were hungry and they didn't have anything. Or they'd dig up, your garden. So, but I would go over. We were housing soldiers at the church. It was turned into a hospital, and I would go over there sometimes and bring some food to the soldiers, and then also help them write letters that could be sent back home.
I see. And you said these are for girls. Was Falls Church at this time? Would you say that you would support the secession or support the Union during this time?
Well, I think Falls Church, being part of Virginia, they eventually decided to secede.
Yeah, but since they're also close to, since they're literally across the river from Washington D.C., I thought they would feel more sympathetic to the Union cause. What was?
Well, some of us actually came from the north. We moved down from the north with the Blaisdell family this past weekend. We were over there doing not reenactment, but it was like a Christmas at Cherry Hill Farm Park. And the Blaisdells who lived there, they actually came down here from the north. So there were families there were many people who still had families who family and friends that lived up north, and some of them also went back north, during the war and then after the war. So, and then I think, soldiers from both different sides would come through the Falls Church. And also the thing was quite upsetting was you could hear the gunfire from when they were battling in Manassas. You could actually hear the gunfire in Falls Church, and that would scare the chickens. And I found it very disturbing, and our children were quite disturbed by that.
And I see by the way you're dressed, you're part of the I believe that the upper class.
We definitely were a little bit more upper class, middle class. I would say probably like higher middle class than a lot of the other people.
I see. And I noticed that you have some toys for that young girls would play with. If you don't mind, can you show us some of it?
Sure. Back in this time period, things that looked like toys, they actually were toys, but in addition to it, they were teaching implements. So, back then, little girls were expected to learn how to cook and clean and wash and take care of the house and be able to take care of your husband eventually and your children. So, it was the mother's duty as the little girl got a little bit older to start teaching her how to do these things. So a lot of these are miniatures of what you would have found in a household. So, yep. So this would have been, and again, this was a family that was doing well. That this would have been your bathtub. So again, it was a toy, but then the children actually learned then, well, what do you do with it? And then you have to bring hot water. You don't put your dolls in hot water, but they would have to learn how to tub. These are called fingerless mitts, so you can see. So when you're doing something like sewing, knitting, handwork, you need to be able to feel what you're doing, but you also want to keep your hands warm. And they had these for the dolls also, little fingerless mitts. So they had all the things that your mom would have. They're miniaturized, so you would learn that this is what you would put on. So you would put this on your doll. So this particular doll, I selected from my collection different dolls made of different things to show you. This doll is actually made out of wax. Her head is poured wax. She has glass eyes. Her hands and her feet are made out of poured wax. It's not like candle wax. It has other things in it, so it's harder. But she's also wearing a dress that was appropriate for the Civil War era. And she's got on a petticoat, and there's her hoop skirt is in here, and I've been having trouble with it.
Okay.
This doll is made from glazed porcelain. So her eyes are painted. This doll had actually glass eyes set into the head. So she's all painted. This hair is made out of mohair, and she's dressed in an outfit that would have been appropriate for the 1860s Civil War period, where women had skirts like this, where your skirt stuck out like this. So this would have been appropriate for that time period, as would that dress. And I had to take her shoes off because they were falling off. But you can see from my shoes, they laced up the front. And eventually, you also had the shoes where they would button on the side. I don't have any doll's shoes that lace up the front, but these are antique doll shoes that imitated the mother's shoes with the buttons on the side. And you had a very tiny hook that almost looked like a little crochet hook, and you needed that to actually get the button to go through the hole. But you had to learn, so you would kind of go around like that and get the button to come through the hole. So, but this would be what your doll wore, and then, this is what your mom wore, except obviously larger. This doll this is the same doll as this one, but obviously she doesn't have her clothes on. And this is glazed porcelain. She's all painted, and this was a big improvement. They made it so the doll could actually turn her head. and this is a French doll, and she had cords that came out so that when you pulled the cords, her legs bent and she would sit. And remember, this is from the 1860s, that all of these things, and she was wearing the little old shoes. Now these did lace in the front. But you have to think about this in terms of what amazing things they made back then. It's so much easier to make these things now. And the little girls would have clothing that looked just like mom's. So night dress, these are all from the 1800s, and very, very detailed. See all the little pleating here, and the buttons and everything. So her doll would have to have all of these kind of outfits, and a lot of different petticoats. Before you had the hoop skirt, so this is they were either metal hoops or tortoise shell. And I shouldn't be doing this in front of the camera, but before you had the hoop skirt that would hold the dress skirt out, you had to wear multiple petticoats in order to get the dress to puff out and have that, it was called bell-shaped. So you would have to have many petticoats underneath. Excuse me. So the dolls have many petticoats, and then you would also put this as a chemise. So you would put that on against your skin, and then you would put the corset on over that. So again, a lot of this is handmade, and it was just like mom dress. So you had to learn. You learned on the doll in terms of what all the different layers were, and then you learned to do that on yourself. And these, I don't know if anyone had this on camera, these are called split drawers. So these were like long underpants that women wore them. I actually have a pair of antique ones on now, which I will not show you.
Of course.
But when you had to go to the bathroom, as everybody did, you couldn't start taking off all your petticoats and this, that, and the other. So you just had the little split drawers. So you didn't have to worry about taking all the stuff off when you had to go to the bathroom. And I mentioned corsets. So they started the girls off when they were very young. They would start them in training corsets, which was the size and shape of corset, and it would have the ties in the back. But instead of having metal stays, these are very hard. Instead of having metal stays, you would have cording, so it was soft. But they would start getting in the habit of putting this on, wearing it. It makes you stand up very straight. But you also need the different kinds of corsets so that the outfit that you wear kind of hangs on the corset. If you don't have the corset on, you can't get that particular look that the dress is supposed to have. But look at this was for your dolls, just like mom's corsets. And I think mom was a little hot in this one. But again, they're just amazing things. So you had that.
And
go ahead.
And so sorry about going out.
Okay. I'll say this really fast then. This doll's head is made out of paper mache. Just like paper mache we had, they also had cloth dolls, China head doll, and these dolls like this, a lot of times you would go to the store and they would sell the head, and then they would also sell a pattern to make the body and clothing. So mom would buy the head, she would go ahead and make the body for the doll and teach the daughter how to do that, and also how to sew clothes and how to take care of it.
And sorry to interrupt, but sure. So basically during Christmas time, during holidays, girls ask Santa to get some things to play with or something?
I think it would depend on how old they were and what they had actually seen. I mean, if you were wealthy and you've been taken down, because they did have stores. If you were taken to the store, you could see all these things. Maybe you would ask for it, but I think a lot of kids probably didn't know exactly what was out there, and mom and dad would buy things for them. These things would have been for a very wealthy child, which would have been nice. And as I wear hoops, you had hoops for a doll. And these are old hoops, so this would have been from the 1860s. To make her dress look like mom's dress. And we also have drying racks. I have a big one at home that you would hang your clothes on there to dry. And last but not least, during this time period, they did not have closets in the house. So you had to have
big cabinet.
a cabinet like that. You would keep all of your linens in. Otherwise, where are you going to put them on the floor? And then you would have an armoire to put your clothing in. But again, that would be for the better off people.
I see. Well, this is very informational, and thank you for this. And this actually shows like another side of civilian life that people don't really know or don't even bother to think about. So I really thank you so much and sharing with us. So I thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Glad you could come by.
Of course, and happy holidays.
Oh, happy holidays to you too.
Hey everyone, so I forgot to record an outro while I was over there, but I want to say that I want to thank the reenactors over there for letting me interview them, and I want to say happy late holidays for everyone, and I want to also say have a happy new year as well. And well, 2022 was an eventful thing for everyone, and I hope that you also have a very lovely 2023. So, Happy New Year and Happy Holidays.